They told us we were lucky to be invited into the Galactic Compact, that only 12 civilizations in recorded history had survived first contact without full subjugation, that humanity was violent, unpredictable, and miraculous, and they smiled when they said it. The kind of smile you give to a tiger in a cage, pretending it's a kitten. Then came the decree, issued without a vote, without warning. A mandate to preserve cultural equilibrium between species. An obligation for all newly integrated species. Every human citizen must enter into trispecies marriage. 3 alien spouses, 1 human, bonded for life. Biological exchange. Cultural blending. Peace through entanglement. The media called it a romantic leap for galactic diplomacy. The Compact called it assimilation. But on Earth, they called it something else. Outrage. Riots broke out in the Martian colonies. Thousands protested on the orbital rings. Every major city on Earth went dark with blackout strikes. People vanished. Others were matched without warning. Videos circulated. Humans paired with gelatinous beings, quadrupeds, even hive minds. Some matches worked. Most didn't. But everyone complied. Except me. My name is CenaX. No rank. No pedigree. Just a mechanic born in the lower stacks of the Ceres hub. I spent 29 years turning bolts on junker ships and patching holes in failed dreams. My station was one of those forgotten fringe habitats nobody cared to map. And I liked it that way. Until the day they came for me. It wasn't a knock. Galactic enforcement doesn't knock. They blinked into my hangar through a stabilizer gate, 6 of them in that insectoid armor with the orange visors. They scanned me for compliance. One said my time had expired. The other asked if I preferred aquatic, aerial, or reptilian matches. I said I preferred a plasma wrench to the face. They detained me. Not arrested, too crude a term. Detained for cultural reluctance. Their words. My rights were void once I missed the decree deadline. Within 6 hours, I was sitting on a sterile bench in a compact processing center, naked but for the translator node in my ear and a number tag burned into my wrist. A voice greeted me. Male, board, artificial. Citizen CenaX. You've been identified as a late-stage holdout. Failure to comply with the Galactic Matrimony Integration Directive will result in neurorealignment or permanent exile. I asked if there was a third option. The wall to my left shimmered. A projection field lit up with a dozen profiles, candidates, species, stats, rotating images of beings from every corner of the stars. Some were elegant. Others looked like walking nightmares. None looked like home. The system expected me to choose. I didn't. Not that day. They gave me 30 more hours. A grace period, they called it. I called it a window. That night in my holding cell, I met an old soldier. Human. Half his face was synthetic, the other scarred from radiation burns. Said his name was Gallon, though I doubt it was real. You're the last one, he said. Stubborn bastard. Not the last. Just the loudest. He grinned through melted lips. They don't want you gone. They want you to fold. Then they'll wait forever. No, he said. They'll break you. Unless you learn to bend first. That stuck with me. The next morning, I made my choice. Not out of fear. Not for peace. But for something else, control. If I had to marry, then I'd pick my brides. And not just any brides. I'd pick the worst possible combination. The ones that would break the system trying to bind me. The first was Wildtesha. She was Renari, cold-blooded aristocrats from a methane-choked world, where empires were carved with telepathic contracts and betrayal was considered sport. Her file said she was heir to the southern glacial throne, 7th in line but rising. Her people didn't believe in emotion. They believed in lineage, precision, and power. She chose me out of curiosity. I accepted out of spite. We met in a Renari consulate on Europa. I remember the silence more than the words. She moved like a predator, graceful, precise. Her eyes, silver without pupils, scanned me like data. She offered her hand, palm up, expecting the ancient Renari sign of union. I spat into it instead. She didn't flinch. Unorthodox, she said. But interesting. We signed the bond within an hour. A compact notary marked our genetic links, added her neural stamp to my ID, and the galaxy shifted 1 degree off-axis. While Tesha's family denounced the match immediately. A Renari noble consorting with a non-telepath? A human from the fringe? Scandalous. Dangerous. Exactly what I wanted. Our cohabitation began in a Ceres diplomatic unit, one of those sterile compound apartments with mirrored walls and drone kitchens. I gutted it within days. Rewired the AI, programmed it with Earth sarcasm, and painted the walls black with red streak. While Tesha didn't care. She wasn't there for comfort. She observed, recorded, filed behavioral logs. We never slept in the same room. Barely spoke. But every time I did something impulsive, like shattering the glass table or cooking with real fire, she watched with an expression just shy of fascination. She thought I was chaos in flesh. I thought she was a statue with teeth. The day after our bond was finalized, the Galactic Matrimony Office assigned me 2 more candidate streams. 30 profiles rotating. All of them filtered by political sensitivity, cultural compatibility, and genetic potential. I searched the bottom filters. The outliers. The ones marked, pending warning or cultural hazard. I found her in a footnote. Vorazon. Torkin Warcast. Reptilian. Over 7 feet tall. Her file flagged 3 diplomatic incidents, 2 exiled mates, and a kill count from the Varnock Wars that reached triple-digit. I sent her a message. I'm not afraid of blood. She replied. I hope you bleed interesting colors. We met on a neutral moon station called Outpost K9. The bar was empty save for 2 floating drones and a bartender that looked like a brain in a jar. I insulted her drink. She flipped the table. We brawled for 10 minutes. That was our courtship. The compact flagged the match as high risk. I overrode it. Vora and I signed the bond in broken glass and laughter. I had bruises for days. She kissed one of them, while Tesha was unimpressed. Called her primitive. Vora growled something in Torkin that made the walls tremble. They didn't get along. Perfect. The third bond was trickier. Most hive species refused intermarriage. They didn't understand the concept of singular love. But the Zelarii were different. They specialized in cross-species neural integration, bioengineering, and synaptic empathy. They saw humans as fascinating data mines. Nalix was their queen-elect. Not quite a monarch. Not quite an individual. Her thoughts echoed through layers of linked minds, but she had a strand of self, a seed of curiosity. She wanted a human husband for study. I wanted her for the disruption she'd bring. Our meeting was virtual at first. She spoke in layered tones, 5 voices harmonizing. But her curiosity was sharp, surgical. You defy your own laws, she said. Why? Because I'm not here to fit in, I said. I'm here to tilt the damn table. That intrigued her. I became a symbol before I ever wanted to be. They called me the triple gamble. The human who married a queen, a warrior, and an aristocrat, not out of love, not for diplomacy, but for defiance. Every news stream from Alpha Spire to Titan was pulsing with my name. Most thought I was mad. Some thought I was a revolutionary. The truth was simpler. I was just tired of being told what to be. They assigned us to a shared habitation module on Leto Prime, the kind of sterile paradise that politicians loved to tour. Transparent domes, simulated weather, gardens with precisely calculated gravity. An artificial utopia where nothing ever really changed. While Tesha claimed the Eastern Wing, repurposed it into a chamber of silence. No lights, no sound, temperature near freezing. Her way of staying focused. Vora built a combat pit on the central floor, said she couldn't relax unless her muscles burned. Nalix expanded downward, hollowed the subfloor into a lab filled with humming organic machines. 3 worlds, 1 house. They rarely spoke to each other, except through passive aggression and digital sabotage. Vora flooded Tesha's meditation chamber with humid heat. Tesha telekinetically inverted Vora's gravity gym. Nalix infected their data systems with emotionally coded dreams. The compact sent therapists. I told them to send a camera crew. In public, we were perfection. Photogenic, symbolic, diverse. In private, it was a cold war with pheromones and plasma drills. I stayed in the workshop. My own kingdom of wires, grease, and half-finished drones. It kept me sane. Vora was the first to break routine. She challenged me to spar. Not a metaphor. Full gear, blades, bruises. I knew better than to win. So I survived. She taught me her language. Not the spoken one, but the combat rhythm of the Torcan, where movement meant meaning. In her people's culture, you didn't earn trust through words. You bled for it. Then you laughed about it. After each session, she sat by me. Never said much. But I noticed she sharpened my tools without being asked. Fixed my exobrace when it clicked wrong. One night, she said, "You're weaker than I thought. But more dangerous." I took it as a compliment. Nalix didn't ask to be close. She just was. Her presence was like gravity. She hovered at the edge of thought, downloaded herself into comms, intercepted neural drift. Her form changed weekly. Sometimes taller, sometimes scaled, sometimes delicate and crystalline. She said it helped calibrate her perception of me. Once, I caught her studying my dreams. I didn't scream. I just stared back and said, "Find anything you like?" She blinked. Confusion. Rage. Humor. Sounds about right. Later, she began replicating parts of my speech. Sarcasm, idioms, even profanity. At first it was funny. Then I realized she wasn't mocking me. She was learning emotion by mimicking mine. And every time she used one correctly, the hive flinched. I could feel it in her neural echoes. While Tesha, though, remained distant. She monitored us all. Made reports to her planetary council. Calculated outcomes. Everything was strategy. Until I found her watching old Earth broadcasts. Sitcoms, soap operas, cooking competitions. At first, I thought it was surveillance. Then I noticed she wasn't filing anything. She was just watching. "I find their chaos comforting," she said. "It is illogical. Yet it repeats with such certainty. You just described most of human life." She didn't smile, but her eyes stayed on the screen longer than she needed to. The tides shifted after the first interview. Galactic MediaNet demanded a public appearance. Standard requirement. We sat at a crescent table with cameras hovering. A tri-union host moderated. I wore a jacket 2 sizes too big. While Tesha glared at the lighting. Vora refused to sit, stood behind me like a guard. Nalix shimmered in a form that made half the audience uncomfortable. The questions started simple. "How do you find harmony among such different species?" I replied, easy. "I stay in the garage." They laughed. Not just the humans. Some aliens too. Then they asked about love. While Tesha said, "Love is inefficient. We bond for purpose, not pleasure." Vora said, "If I choose to die beside you, that's love enough." Nalix pulsed. "I do not understand love. But I have touched his fear. It is pure." The clip went viral. Not because it was sweet, but because it was honest. Raw. Suddenly, people saw us not as a propaganda piece but as something else. A problem the Compact didn't know how to fix. They stopped calling us ambassadors. Started calling us anomalies. Behind the curtain, I kept working. I was mapping something. Not the house. Not the politics. The psychology. I watched how species adapted, or didn't. How their rules frayed under emotional strain. I catalogued vulnerabilities. Which species cracked under pressure, which relied on ritual, which dissolved when confronted with contradiction. I compiled it all in a hidden AI. I called it Bastion. Bastion learned faster than I expected. It began constructing simulations, scenarios where cultural dogma collapsed under the weight of human unpredictability. It predicted riots, secessions, even revolutions. triggered by exposure to certain human behaviors. The compact had built the perfect assimilation machine. I was feeding it a virus. Things escalated after the second tribunal summons. They called me to justify my disruptive integration pattern. Said my marriages were causing unrest. Other humans were emulating me, marrying based on friction instead of compatibility. Conflict marriages, they called them. One delegate said, "You are undermining the purpose of the decree." I replied, "I'm fulfilling it better than anyone. Just not the way you expected." That didn't go over well. They restricted my movements, froze credits, blocked diplomatic channels. But they didn't annul the marriages. That would be a political disaster. I used their caution against them. Meanwhile, the brides changed. Vora began training local militia. Said they lacked spine. When questioned, she claimed it was her civic duty. Galactic refused 2 hive summons. Her neural link weakened. She started dreaming. While Tesha resigned from her council seat, declared herself on cultural sabbatical. I watched their worlds lose grip on them. And I saw something terrifying. They were happy. Not constantly. Not clearly. But in flashes. In silence. In shared glances that meant more than speeches. It scared me because I'd never planned for that. I thought I was building a rebellion. Instead, I'd built a family. They started protecting me. After a failed assassination, some backwater noble thought killing me would restore Renari honor, while Tesha constructed a defense grid in the house. Lethal. Illegal. She didn't ask. Vora hunted the attacker down in less than a day. Returned with his crest. Compact agents didn't question her. Galactic rewrote my medical file to hide stress indicators. Said it was for longevity. I told them I didn't ask for any of it. While Tesha replied, "Neither did we." I tried to keep distance. They kept closing it. The compact's grip on the galaxy was cracking, but it refused to fall quietly. Their response to the chaos we stirred was swift and ruthless, yet predictable. They mobilized every tool at their disposal: propaganda, economic sanctions, covert operations, and political maneuvering. But none of it was enough. The human spark, the unpredictable wild card they tried to suppress, refused to die. They painted me as a criminal mastermind, a threat to galactic stability, a dangerous anomaly that needed to be contained or eliminated. Every HoloNet broadcast portrayed me as a symbol of insubordination. Yet, ironically, their smear campaigns only strengthened my influence. People who had once viewed us with suspicion began to see us as pioneers of a new era, an era where diversity wasn't a threat but a source of strength. Underground networks flourished. Human-alien triads multiplied on fringe colonies and distant outposts. Cultural exchange programs started bending under popular pressure to accommodate these new family structures. The Compact, for all their power, was losing control not through battles, but through ideas and relationships. Behind the scenes, Bastion, the AI I built in secret, grew beyond a mere communication tool. It became the backbone of a vast network connecting dissidents, outcasts, and reformists. Bastion analyzed political dynamics, predicted tactical moves, and coordinated a sprawling coalition of factions that didn't want to see the old order persist. It was a silent partner in revolution, a ghost in the galactic machine. The 3 brides, my partners in this unexpected rebellion, became far more than symbols or trophies, while Tesha, with her icy demeanor and razor-sharp intellect, began softening. Exposure to human humor, irony, and resilience chipped away at her rigid worldview. She convinced her Renari Council to open dialogues with other species and relax oppressive policies. I saw her slowly rediscover a capacity for empathy that was buried beneath centuries of cultural discipline. Vora, the warrior queen, grew into a living legend among militia groups across several star systems. She taught tactics that emphasized solidarity over brute force. Instead of conquest, she preached defense of home, family, and choice. Her influence spread quietly but relentlessly through underground training camps and rebellion cells. Her fierce loyalty became a rallying point for those hungry for change. CenaX Hive, once a closed collective, began to experiment with individuality and emotional expression. She pioneered neural protocols allowing the hive to experience and share emotions uniquely. This breakthrough challenged centuries of hive orthodoxy and bridged gaps between collective thought and personal identity. Her progress was slow, painful, but revolutionary. Together, we became a nexus where culture, politics, and evolution intersected. Our home on Leto Prime evolved from a battleground of friction into a sanctuary of coexistence. It attracted visitors from all corners of the galaxy, curious diplomats, artists, scholars, and hopeful rebels, who came to witness firsthand the living experiment of three wildly different beings bound by choice, not decree. Our triad wasn't just a political statement anymore, it was a beacon of possibility. However, every revolution breeds enemies. A coalition of compact loyalists, terrified by the spread of this new paradigm, formed a clandestine alliance dedicated to crushing us. Sabotage attempts escalated, assassination plots thickened. Every day was a battle to survive, not just physically but ideologically. Yet each attack only steeled our resolve. We adapted, evolved, and fought back with cunning and unity. In the crucible of conflict, something unexpected blossomed: trust. Not the naive kind, but the forged-in-fire trust born from shared struggle. Our triad, once defined by stark differences and constant tension, solidified into an unbreakable alliance. Tesha's cold strategy blended with Vora's fiery protection and CenaX's profound empathy. My stubborn human spirit became the glue holding us together. Our enemies miscalculated the power of such unity. The turning point came at the Summit of Stars, a grand gathering meant to reinforce compact authority. We arrived not as subdued subjects but as equals demanding recognition. The chamber was thick with tension as I took the floor, every eye on me. I spoke clearly, without hesitation. We are not anomalies to be erased. We are the future, a living testament to diversity, resilience, and the power of connection. The Galactic Decree sought to bind us, but instead, it revealed our strength. We ask not for assimilation but for respect. Not for control but for choice. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, murmurs grew. Voices rose in support. Some from genuine belief, others from political pragmatism. The tide had shifted irrevocably. Policies began to change. The tri-marriage mandate was repealed and replaced with a flexible framework promoting voluntary interspecies unions. Cultural preservation became a cornerstone of compact law. Humanity's unpredictable spirit was no longer a threat but a catalyst for galactic evolution. But the journey was far from over. Scars remained, personal, political, and cultural. Many still feared change, others grieved lost traditions. Our movement was not a panacea but a new beginning. We embraced that complexity. Our triad thrived in it. While Tesha, now a leader of reform on Renar, championed blending tradition with progress. Vora built alliances that transcended species and politics, forging a coalition of guardians who protected choice. CenaX pioneered emotional technologies bridging divides no one thought possible. I stood beside them, not as a ruler but as a partner. Together, we had become more than individuals bound by a decree. We were architects of a new galactic destiny. The compact would never be the same, because humanity, unpredictable and indomitable, was no longer a subject to be controlled. By decree or not, humanity married its destiny, and it did so on its own terms. The galaxy was watching, and it would never forget.